It could be just a regime shift, Trump's policies, potentially early phases. It's lagged. Like there just hasn't been that sort of stimulus coming in to support crypto or even the stock market, to be honest. Like we have seen it grow, but it's also had its sort of halts and faults as well.
I can see why Ethereum's not doing anything. You know, I held a few and I remember trying to send them somewhere and just the gas fees, just remember thinking this is useless. It was so expensive, and that's probably another reason why I like Solana, because it was fast and it was cheap and it was really effective.
I'm pretty bullish on Sui as sort of an alternative to Solana, and I think it's going to get that sort of shine that Solana's, you know, starting to become that, you know, big player as an Ethereum alternative, and then the spotlight will sort of shift to Sui, and I think we've already seen that a little bit. G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Tapping Into Crypto. Today we're joined by a radio veteran and more importantly crypto enthusiast, Kip Wightman.
Yes, hey.
Kip, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pav, Ted.
There it is.
I wasn't expecting you to have a better voice than me, Ted.
No, I was just going to say, I think Pav and I are going to look like absolute amateurs sitting next to you here today, so we'll try.
Oh, we're just here to take notes, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So any tips after the show, we'll take it.
Sure. I'll take notes.
Kip, first of all, you are the host of KIIS 97.3 radio show, Robin, Kip and Corey Oates. How's that been going?
Yeah, good. So Corey's just joined us this year full time. Is retired from the Broncos, so it's good. He's bringing some good enthusiasm. He hasn't been obviously he's just come straight out of footy, so straight into a radio job, and he's doing really well. It's good. He's bringing a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of off-air chat, which is great. He talks a lot, but I love him. I love him. No, he's great.
I saw a clip recently of Luke Combs, the country singer, prank calling him, and that was hilarious. He was shaken up by that.
Poor bloke. Yeah, he's a huge fan. He loves country music. And so we told him we'd organised an interview with Luke Combs, but we got a stand in, and we pretended we had this whole ruse set up where we told him that the Zoom camera wasn't working, and so he could see him, but we couldn't see Luke, and Luke got him to a shoey, and then and then Corey asked a question which our fake Luke pretended to be really upset about and called off the interview, and Corey was so rattled. He was so he just pissed off his hero, and it was just so sad. And so it was actually relief when he said, "Oh, it's not really me. It's I'm Travis," and he just felt so much better. So, but he was filthy honest for a couple of days, Corey.
Yeah.
It must have been the greatest thing to try and plan that one out.
Yeah. There's a lot of time. In fact, and we had a proper lookalike who looks exactly like Luke, who pulled out the day before. And so then I got a mate in America who's like in the bus industry over there. I'm going, have you got any blokes that look like Luke Combs? And you get on the phone, we're trying to scram. So, but yeah, we managed to pull it together last minute, but it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're here to talk crypto. So the reason you're here is you recently were featured in an article talking about how you'd taken up a bit of a side hustle as a crypto bro. Yeah. I want to know how you kind of got to that point and what's your journey been in crypto so far.
My bro actually was the person who got me started. So my little brother, he loves a scheme. It's cost me a fortune over the years of things that he's got me into. But so he introduced me in about 2019 into Bitcoin. He was just like, this is going to be huge. And it was actually one of his mates. They live on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. And one of his mates was so all in on Bitcoin that he sold his house and moved. He had a family, 2 kids, moved him into a rental property.
Holy God, that is all in.
That's conviction.
He went proper all in. So all the money they had from the house, he bought Bitcoin. And that was when they were about 10,000 a coin.
Wow.
And at that time for me, I knew nothing about it. I'd heard about Bitcoin when it was worth $1 each, right? So so for him to be spending 10,000 each, I was like, this guy's crazy. But he was that all in that I was like, okay, well, if you're going to put everything in, I can put in 5% of what I'm worth, Yeah. So I did that, and I haven't looked back. That was great timing. Obviously, 2019 was fairly low then, and then it just certainly there were some lean years as well, like when it all came crashing back. But yeah, so I think it was my brother's mate, Alan. Shout out to Alan.
Alan.
Who just he really changed my mind on it. And then once I got started, I guess it's a pretty similar story for a lot of people. Then all of a sudden you start looking at altcoins and I'm out trying to, farm, doing all sorts of stuff, trying to earn money, doing other things. So so that was my start. And Bitcoin obviously is that's still the majority of what I've got. Like it's certainly been the best. Probably if I could go back in time, I would have bought a lot more, and I would have just bought Bitcoin, I think. Wouldn't have mucked around with the other ones.
So it started off with like speculation, which I guess probably the same for us and a lot of other people. Yeah. But when did it sort of become like a bit of a aha moment? Like this is huge, and this could change the world. Yeah.
Well, I think seeing that turn, having it go from 10,000, like talking US dollars, from about 10,000 a coin, then it went all the way sort of up to 60, which I think was about 95,000 Australian dollars. And my brother had gone a little bit harder than me, and he was able to pay for his pool and things like that. And I was just like, okay, this is proper money that people are making from this. Yep. It did come back down to earth. And I think in the middle of that, that's when I was like, I want to stay invested, but I don't necessarily want to be watching my own money go down. So that's when I set up a self-managed super fund, and I put a lot of my super into crypto because I had sort of long-term ideals on it. I thought, eventually this is going to be worth something. It may go up and down a lot in the short term, but if I'm thinking about 10 years, 15, 20 years when I retire, I believe it's going to be up. And so that's when I sort of shifted into making it more about my future than right now, necessarily like day to day.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So what have been your biggest sort of wins and losses? You said you hold the majority of your portfolio in Bitcoin. What about some of the altcoins?
Solana's been really good. So I bought a few Solana early days back when it was quite expensive. It was like $200 a coin, and then watched it go all the way down to 15.
You and me both.
Yeah. And that was pretty desperate, but I had used it a little bit, and been on the network, and I knew that, I don't know, it just seemed like it was a quality sort of product, and so I bought a bit more when it was down in its lows, so that was good. I sold some on the way up. Like once it had gone like 3x, I was like, here I go, I'm a genius. Sold out.
To be fair, like you can't really pull it out and buy a pool unless you do some of that. I mean, it can always keep going higher as, I guess, a trap even we always keep falling into along the way.
Taking profits.
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. So Solana's definitely been, other than Bitcoin, by far has been the best buy. And even just more recently, anytime it's sort of, it's just shown so much strength. Anytime it's taken a dip, I've been sort of topping up again, and it, so far it just always bounces back in ways that so many of the other tokens don't, like Polygon and things like that. They just don't bounce the way Solana it can have a dip like the rest, but it bounces hard. And I think the worst has probably been Phantom. I got into Phantom like when it was going pretty strong, like I think it was around 2020. But then I got right into, they had that Tomb, there was like a Tomb site where you could...
Yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. You get the crazy yields.
Yeah, that's right. Massive yields, and it was pegged to Tomb, and so you buy Phantom tokens and Tomb tokens. Anyway, it depegged, and I had a lot in Tomb, and they all just went to worth nothing. Yeah. And then I also had a couple of Phantom wrapped Ethereum, which is, I had no right to be buying anything like that. I got no idea what's happening, but I was just like, I was seeing 10% returns for Ethereum, and I had Ethereum. I was like, okay, well, so I'll just wrap them, move them over into the Phantom network, and they also, I don't know if the term is depeg, but they went from being worth, whatever Ethereum was at the time, say $3,000 down to $300, and I had four or five, and so I just did my ass on those. And there was no recourse, and Phantom didn't do anything. The network certainly didn't make anyone whole.
No.
So I'm kind of burnt on them. And what are they? They've renamed, haven't they?
To Sonic now?
Sonic, yeah. Okay, yeah. So I don't hold any Phantom or Sonic. And I guess more recently the Rune.
Thorchain. Yeah, okay.
Thorchain. Yeah. I was a fair believer in them, but they've just absolutely plummeted. And I'm hoping you two might have some information on that. What's going on?
I think
with that?
they had some financial struggles with the protocol, and there was concerns around insolvency for a little bit there. I think the sort of lending and borrowing protocol they had was like you would deposit your ETH or Bitcoin, and in return you'd get your
like a derivative coupon.
Yeah, exactly. But
similar to what you just described.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but as the price of Rune started to head downwards, I think they weren't able to sort of meet those financial obligations, and sort of people couldn't claim that Bitcoin and Ethereum back if they wanted to. So they paused withdrawals on Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is always a concern.
That's scary. Yeah.
But if it means the whole thing doesn't fall apart, maybe it could come back.
Yeah. I know they've worked out a little bit of a restructuring plan, like over 90 days. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't know. Typically with so many products out on the market these days, like when you have something like that, it's hard to come back from because people will just always have that in their mind.
That's my caveat to it. Yeah, like it sucks, but like when there's so many other products to choose from, or that didn't exist in 2021, 2020, it was like 3-4 big players.
Yeah.
Now you could go to, Sui Chain or like Say Chain. There's like all these different things doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Very competitive.
Yeah. Okay.
But who knows? Like,
who knows? Yeah.
I know. Yeah. And I mean, if you're like me and you're in it, like it's kind of like you can sell out now and maybe scrape a little bit back, but maybe it'll turn around. I don't know. It's hard to know when you're.
And that's it. We're all waiting till we're knowing in this space.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Sui? Like I've noticed that's over the last couple of weeks it hasn't been as strong as it was. Like it feels like it's on the way down. Is that what are your thoughts?
I mean, long term, I'm pretty bullish on Sui as sort of an alternative to Solana, and I think it's going to get that sort of shine that Solana's, starting to become that, big player as an Ethereum alternative, and then the spotlight will sort of shift to Sui, and I think we've already seen that a little bit. So short term, I don't really know. Pav's probably the expert on that one, but long term, I have pretty strong conviction on Sui purely because it's got this new tech. It seems to have a lot of community around it. People like to use it. They've just integrated with the Phantom wallet, the wallet that you use on Solana.
Yeah.
Now you can use that on Sui.
Yes.
So it means like all these people with Solana wallet, such as myself and Pav, we can now use the Sui protocol easily without having to, create our own Sui wallet.
Right, okay.
And
that Phantom wallet's got nothing to do with the Phantom chain.
Phantom with the PH.
Yeah.
Sorry, could clarify that.
Yeah.
But and like all the fundamentals and metrics of Sui are heading in the right direction. So I guess we'll wait and see. I think a big indicator is of like, community is meme coins.
Right.
So we haven't really seen Sui meme coins take off yet.
Yeah.
But
that was kind of behind the
space.
Solana pump, hey? The memes?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, like it's the easiest way to get a bulk community in because people aren't really using the Solana network for its great tech. They more want to get access to these meme coins that they can sort of gamble on. So I think in terms of like building that community, that's sort of like a good way to do it as much of a meme as it is. And whether these memes do well over the long term, but at the end of the day, it reflects well on the network itself.
Right. Yeah.
So and it's got a good team behind it as well. Like the guys who founded it were the previous Facebook guys who were working on the Facebook stablecoin.
Right.
That was like had to be shut down due to regulations and concerns around that. But basically these guys just went, all right, well, we've built this whole thing. Now let's just take it and build our own protocol. Right. And they've done that with Sui. So it's a good team behind it. Yeah. Seems to be a bit of a narrative around like, we saw Solana last cycle as that sort of shiny new layer one. I think we're seeing that with Sui. Yeah. I'm
a big fan of just their first principles approach. Like they share it quite a bit. More recently too, like they put the customer first, they put the developer first, like what's going to be the easiest way for them to interact with crypto? Because I'm sure, we're going to chat about it soon, but just the barrier for people to just to get it is so difficult, even just to get money in. Yeah. Some things are so complicated, like you end up down the deepest of rabbit holes, just like, how the hell did I get here? Yes. So, they're looking at launching some products that people are familiar with, like everyone sort of speaks about gaming as being the next frontier for blockchain. As we all know payments is the most probably likely one, but gaming's one area that could be disrupted or improved upon. So they've launched like a gaming console that they're going to reward players for playing on.
So like a proper console,
like a PSP looking device. Right. So and on your point, Pav, like things. So some of these projects that release their own products, and this one's a physical product. Like Solana released their own phone. Like a physical product is easier to to understand for the everyday person, right?
Something digital and ethereal.
Understanding the particular blockchain tech behind Sui might not be, everyone's cup of tea. For most people, it isn't. But understanding, these guys have a product where people can game and earn tokens and stuff like that. That's an easier sort of entry into understanding sort of the value behind it.
Yeah, okay.
I kind of think Sui's got, so far it's working out quite well.
Yeah.
How we thought it would like a year ago when it started. We kind of thought it was a tighter race between a couple of other competitors in that landscape, the infrastructure space, but it seems to be really pulling away.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, at least.
So I made a bit of luck involved here, but we had like a 2024 predictions episode at the start of 2024.
Oh,
and one of my predictions was Sui to have a strong year.
Really?
I was looking back, just absolutely loving that episode where we reviewed everything. So I got to rub that in Pab's face a little bit.
Nice.
But,
right. I look forward to rubbing whatever this is.
Yeah,
nice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's just touch on that. Like we talked about sentiment towards crypto and just people understanding crypto. How do you feel like the media, I guess, what you deal with day in, day out, how do you feel like that's sort of shaping and shifting over since when you got started to, I guess, where we are now? Do you feel like it's come a ways or just moving backwards and forwards constantly?
I think it is. I think, look, there's definitely more familiarity than there was before. And I think it's the stigma of it being, way for drug dealers to pay for their drugs is going, and people are, I know from when I talk about it, or if we talk about it on air and things like that, I get instant response, like either on my Instagram or whatever else, or just people, we've got a text line that people can text in the show, and there's definitely more people wanting to interact about it, find out and say like, what are you into? Like, I've bought some, and not necessarily younger people too, like people in their 60s, 70s going, we've put some in. There is still the people, you still do get someone going, well, my mum bought it and she lost everything and whatever else. So you do still, there's still definitely a stigma, but I think it's becoming more mainstream. And like amongst my team, like of producers and the other guys who work on air with me, like all of them in the last 12 months have, like I've helped them set up an account on an exchange so that they could like just get something and just get started, like even if it's $100. So
is that curiosity or you just badgering them?
it's probably me.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit of curiosity. I think we also had lady Sidel Sierra. She's got a crypto company. She came to our attention when she flew into the Melbourne Cup on a chopper.
Oh yeah.
And she just flew into Melbourne from the Gold Coast. She's like 32 years old, beautiful blonde lady. And people are like, who is this person? And so she made all her money with crypto. And so we had her on air just to talk about what she'd done. She was one of the fortunate people that got in early days Bitcoin when it was like less than $100 a Bitcoin.
Yeah, wow.
So those are the dream days. And made life-changing wealth from it. So I think talking to her obviously got people a little bit excited as well amongst the team, and she had some ideas. Unfortunately, one of the tips she gave us was Rune.
There you go.
Which has been horrible
for now.
But I reckon there's a lot more. There's a lot more openness to it. And anything I've posted about on my personal stuff, like there's certainly a lot more people positive about it than negative. You do still get the odd person saying, "Oh, like why are you trying to shill?"
Yeah. What do you think those common misconceptions are usually? Like the people are anti it or just not really vibing with it?
A lot of the time it's not understanding it and not knowing what it is. And I think if you do get burnt, because unfortunately there are definitely people in crypto that are purely there to steal your money, and that's the reality. And so if you're not careful, and if you don't know what you're doing, which most of us when we start off we don't, you will lose something. And I guess if you lose a lot, then you're going to hate it forever. And if it's all bad news, then you can see how that happens. But like I did have a pop up of the MetaMask wallet on, and I just changed laptops, so I guess I was not to make excuses for myself for being stupid, but then I had like this little MetaMask thing, the same little fox head showed up, and it was like, you need to re-sign in with your seed phrase, which I did. it was fake. The whole thing was fake. They got my seed phrase and took everything out of my MetaMask wallet.
Scary stuff.
But it was incredible. Like it was just perfect. The fake was perfect.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I didn't have much in there. Like it still hurt, but it wasn't enough to put me off. But you know, if you had your life savings in there and it's all gone, like I can see why you'd hate it. Yeah,
that's it. And I think most people think like only old people who aren't really tech savvy fall victim to these scams. But especially in crypto, some of them are so advanced and just look like the real thing.
It's
creepy. It can happen to anyone. And I know like, you know, some of my mates who are very into crypto, it's happened to them. So
really,
you just got to be super vigilant with sort of everything when it comes to security.
Well, I was pretty impressed with that when I was checking the office here at like SwiftX, like just the amount of people that are here just for security. Like just like it's half the team just to help people from not getting scammed, you know? So it's obviously important, which is
I think that's where the industry sort of has to head and sort of where we are trying to align ourselves as well is because, you know, we see people get scammed and it happens more common than it should.
Yes.
So we're really trying to crack down on that. And there are sort of industry players who are really changing sort of the landscape in that, who are able to track where sort of this money flows and where it goes and take them down, you know, from a criminal point of view. But at the same time, sometimes, you know, it's your money's getting sent to somewhere in Russia and
it's gone.
It's gone forever.
Yeah. Yep.
Not to deter any of our listeners.
No.
But one last thing on that. So we're talking about sort of the, you know, sort of crypto's adoption and sentiment. Is there any sort of restrictions that you have when talking about crypto or even just finance when it comes to radio?
Not really. I mean, like, obviously we have a certain responsibility as far as like when you're talking about gambling, like we obviously say, you know, gamble responsibly and things like that. If we're talking about your big betting apps and things like that, who spend a fortune advertising with particularly more of your sporting stations and stuff like that.
Yep.
But, so there's that. So I guess if we were to sort of pump up too many meme coins, it's semi-gambling. But no, not really. There's no restrictions on it. It's just about, I mean, I guess for us, it's just about being, you know, obviously we want to be entertaining and we want to be informative, and so you know, as long as it's fitting inside that sort of boundary, I think it's okay for us to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're talking about blockchain tech on the radio to, you know, just every day.
It's a lot of people falling asleep at the wheel.
Yeah. But I mean, I remember a while ago, it wasn't that long ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago when, what's his name? The bald guy. Used to be finance, used to do breakfast TV. Koshi.
Oh, Koshi.
So Koshi, you know, spoke to him about.
He's big on his crypto, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, not then. He wasn't. Like 4 years ago, he was just like, no, it's rubbish. It's you know, he said blockchain. He tried to hedge his bets by saying blockchain was incredible technology, but he just said, you know, Bitcoin's a terrible investment. It all goes to, it could just go to zero any second. I think that's back when Bitcoin was about $20,000 a token. So hopefully no one took his advice. But yeah, he was really negative on it back then. But I think there was a lot of people that have changed their tune since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Koshi's our version of Jim Cramer.
Yes,
we'll take that. We'll take that.
Yeah.
Don't they say once
won't like that.
Once Jim Cramer says it's a buy, that means it's an absolute sell?
Yeah, pretty much.
Inverse Cramer indicator.
It's what we love to do in the office whenever we see something come from Jim Cramer, just share it because we know the opposite's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think he's actually keen on Bitcoin now. So
that's what he said it that weekend before it fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's in my portfolio and it fell off a cliff the next day.
It never fails.
It never fails.
The harbinger of
It's
death.
crazy.
Yeah. So Koshi, if you're listening, apologies for that.
Sorry. Yes.
He is a listener of our show.
Is he?
Yeah, famously.
I get a question.
No, but I want to understand a little bit more about your journey. Is there anything in particular that sort of changed the way you think about crypto, or something that you learned that really sort of changed the game for you?
Not really, to be honest. There's certainly things that I'm learning along the way, which is like, I can see why Ethereum's not doing anything, for example. These are the things that I've sort of learned because I held a few and I remember trying to send them somewhere and just the gas fees, which are certainly better now than they were, but I just remember thinking, this is useless. Like, it was so expensive, and that's probably another reason why I like Solana, because it was fast and it was cheap and it was really effective.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, this you can see a future where people could buy something on marketplace, which I do a bit, and you go around and use Pay ID now for $100 or whatever else. But you could easily see a future where you just give them $100 worth of Solana.
Yeah. Instant settlement.
Yeah. It's quick. It's easy. You know, it's come through. Which is probably why, I don't know what your thoughts on Ethereum, whether or not it's going to bounce back, but it feels like nothing might, I don't think it's going to crash, but it just sort of feels like it might just sort of sit here forever as.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you use the city analogy, whereby, if a city has ridiculous traffic all the time and no one can get to work and it's just costly to get anywhere, then obviously that doesn't reflect well on the city, right? And it's the same for Ethereum, because of the tech behind it and the way it's built, the transactions on it are so slow and expensive, like you said. So why would you use that when you can use Solana, which is, maybe not as secure, but, instant transactions, I can send money to Pav instantly or someone overseas. It's just a way better user experience. So I don't know, Ethereum's so big and it's obviously got the support of the ETFs now, which sort of legitimize it a little bit more. So financial institutions now have Ethereum on their books, which I think helps. But I think long term, the founders of Ethereum have had crisis meetings about what to do next, because they even understand that this is a problem. So even they're starting to see that there is a problem. And I guess that's just telling of where we are. So where it goes next, I don't really know, but it's
would you be holding many? If you I
actually sold a lot of my Ethereum just because, sort of a couple of months ago, I was getting sort of bullish on where we were, in 2025. And I wanted to say, how do I maximize, where I go in the next year? And I thought Ethereum wasn't going to do much for me. And will Solana outperform Ethereum? I thought, yes. So why even bother holding Ethereum, right? I know diversification is always something that we recommend. But in this instance, I was like, I don't think there's a point in holding Ethereum over Bitcoin and Solana.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Pat?
It's crazy. I've been around the space long enough to know that sentiment can seem so dreary and negative for so long, and then it can change in an instant.
Yes.
So, for example, Ethereum could come out, do the same thing they've done in the past, have some sort of aha moment, we've solved it, and then you have also the likes of we talk about the US becoming the blockchain capital of the world. They come out and say, well, we're going to adopt Ethereum because it does have, arguably today the most secure network out there.
Right.
So they're going to lean on that security above all else, and then they'll work the rest out later. You could see that, and then that gets that sort of rhetoric back in the asset, and the momentum comes back. Coinbase is built on top of Ethereum. The best way I would sort of think about when I try to explain Ethereum to people is back in the day, you'd go to your bank to withdraw money, right? That's almost like the layer one. So that's your Ethereum.
Right.
What they're looking to build is something scalable on top of that. So that would be their layer twos, or I know they're talking about blobs and stuff now. I don't know it all, to be honest, but there's some talks on what that architecture should look like. But they're looking to build the ATMs that are on the street that everyone accesses quickly.
Right.
And then you get to the point where everyone's just paying digitally, right? So there's almost this iterative step of how settlements are occurring.
Yes.
And I'm just sort of drawing it back to that because everyone can understand what that used to be like. I remember sitting in the car while Dad went to the bank to get money for the week. So I always think about the problem state that we have now may not be the future, but if the underlying fundamentals are solid, that kind of sets a tone for where it could go next. But I also would say it's going to be damn hard to keep up with things if Solana and even the likes of Sui keep building, they develop more and more infrastructure partners that make it indispensable. Sorry. So they definitely have their work cut out for them, but I don't know if it's over is all I would say.
Some of that, I'm just taking this to check out some of my tokens. Just to find out what I've got.
Don't listen to anything.
What do you think of some of the older chains that have been around for a while and haven't done, like AVAX, for example, which hasn't done much?
It's interesting. I have the same idea with that too. It's just, you need people on there doing stuff, and if people aren't there doing stuff, then there's no future for it. It has to have growth. So that's I think that's the problem this cycle versus last cycle. You didn't have all these different assets competing for the same thing, whereas now it's the everyone's trying to be either a specialist in a specific space, so like gaming or AI or, you know, real world assets or NFTs. Like everyone's trying to be bespoke so they don't have to compete, I feel, at that top level, because at that top level, everyone's just racing to be the best, and it's a very tough race to fight. So yeah, you do wonder, could AVAX keep it up at the end of the day? AVAX is an interesting one because of the way you can set up democratized ecosystems and your own blockchains that might be more useful for specific reasons, where other chains you can't really do that. But yeah, like let's look at Matic, for example. That's another good one. At what point is that useful versus like an L2 on Ethereum? Like it's going to be really interesting. I feel like the next year, everything you could say rising tide raises all ships, but you know, are they really going to perform better than some of these newer ones that are getting a lot more of the mind share? Like that's what I would say. No, probably.
Just on AVAX is, I think it's going down the route of trying to be a gaming specific layer one. Right. And to your point, Pav, it's like they're trying to find their niches rather than just being a general purpose layer one like your Ethereum or your Solana. A lot of these players are saying, okay, we're building a layer one that is specifically built for gaming applications to be built on top, or specifically built for DePIN applications to be built on top, or AI. So it's they're kind of trying to claim that narrative. You know, when AI's gone really well on the back of whatever's happening in the world, they're going to perform well as well. So it's all about building that narrative and sort of slotting into your group and trying to ride on the back of that.
Just to add to that, I think what's different this time around is like I think everyone's been through the whole thing of like, oh, we need infrastructure. It's like, well, we're kind of done with infrastructure now. Like it's good, it's usable. We've seen it. Like you said it with Solana, and like we've been saying it this whole time. Like, oh my god, like this is possible now. Like everything that we thought crypto could do, it can now do. Right. So now it's all about application. So governments come in, they create regulations, legislation, give us frameworks. Yeah. And then you start to see all this actual real life crypto application coming through. Yes. I feel like that's where like people hopefully shift their investment theses to, as opposed to, oh, this chain can do this many transactions per second, or it can do this, has this privacy level, or like you need that. Yeah. But I feel like there's enough of that already out there that there's no real innovation. Yeah. But the real innovation would be the people that actually get boots on the ground, actually start talking and making real deals and making real like solid products that people want to invest into. Yeah. Like
it's also like about building brands as well.
Yeah. A brand as well. I think that'll be more important this time around as well.
Yeah. Like we've seen some of the projects like bring out full scale like TV ads and stuff like that. Because you know, it's brand building. It's like, I now have more of an emotional connection with that brand. So it'll be interesting. Yeah. I think that's the key
scary. It is. I think it's going to be really interesting. Yeah. Because we just don't know. But
and speaking of big brands, like I had a mate who when I was so before we had this sort of more recent pump, like before Trump, and everything was pretty flat. But I was talking to him about crypto, and I didn't realize he was into it as well. And he was like full into XRP, and then we had that first sort of pump happened, and most of my tokens, the ones that have been dead for ages, sort of came back to life, and Bitcoin obviously went great. XRP did nothing at all. Like it just sat there at 80 cents or whatever it was. Yeah. And I'm so glad. Like I literally had the text written, just go, mate, you got to get off. Right. You got to get off XRP. You got to move it into something else. It's dead. It's dead. And I didn't send it. And then about 3 months later, it just went nuts. Like, and you know, and he's finally back in the black. Like, after having a long time down there. Yeah. But XRPs just came out of nowhere. I thought it was finished. And I don't know, do you reckon it's the American connection? The fact that it's an American sort of crypto company, and Trump's all about that? Like how has it just come out of nowhere?
I think that definitely plays a role. Yeah. Because I was in a similar boat. Like, you know, I guess when something is not doing anything for so long. Yeah. And it was also, you know, embroiled with the SEC and all that court case and stuff. Yeah. That didn't obviously reflect very well for it. So it's one of those things that you just kind of, you don't focus on, and then all of a sudden it took off. And I don't know what the main catalyst in the end was, but I think Trump definitely helped because he's talked about how he wants to prioritize US-based crypto projects, and Ripple being one, or Ripple XRP being one of those. They've also brought out their own stablecoin, and the interesting part there is like, well, where does that leave XRP? Because XRP was meant to be sort of that instant settlement coin that you can do for cross-border transactions and things like that. But now they're releasing this stablecoin that is meant to be like pegged to the US dollar, but for the same thing, for the same reason. Right. So I thought that was actually going to mean that XRP became redundant, but clearly it has not.
Yeah.
You know?
So like just for a dumbass like myself, so the idea is then if they've got a stable coin that you would buy XRP and then buy their XRP USD. Or US
So
dollar.
not necessarily.
Right.
You could just
Oh,
like
you don't even need to buy XRP.
Yeah, let's say if
anymore.
SwiftX listed the RL USD, which is the name of the stablecoin, you could just buy it without even touching XRP.
Right.
But the thing is that the stablecoin itself is built on the XRP ledger, which is like the XRP blockchain.
Okay.
So I guess that is a good thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of like actual demand for the XRP token, I don't know how it impacts it in that sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to talk too much about it because, the jury is definitely out still for XRP on me. I feel like it's had a lot of positive tailwinds.
Yeah.
I feel like if people are buying it at the end of the day and they're not selling it, price goes up. Like, it's that simple. And there's lots of great things happening for it. Lots of, like, talks with Trump and, like, that, like, the administration and ETF on the way as well. Like, that always blows positive tailwinds too.
Yeah.
But it still has, like, some tokenomics that are just not good. Like, they could effectively just create supply out of nowhere. It's still like for the consumer, I think if you're an investor, it's still like for me has a lot of fundamental question marks.
Yeah.
But when you see strength in the market,
you
kind of have to like ask yourself the question, am I just in this for a short amount of time, going to ride this strength? Because strength usually doesn't just disappear.
Yes.
Or, if I have been holding it for a while, is this time right, sort of harvest the crops a little bit and look to reallocate to something else or wait for, a rainy day to go back in at a lower price if you've got longer term conviction.
The thing about XRP is as well, like it has such a strong community behind it. And even when, like you said, it wasn't doing anything, it was just sitting at 80 cents to $1. People were still rallying behind it and had conviction with it. And obviously now it's pumped to $3-4 and come back down a little bit. But like if I scroll through Twitter or crypto Twitter, like the XRP is by far the most sort of posted about coin. Yeah. So clearly there's some sort of, community conviction about it. But I think, as you said, the jury is still potentially out on it.
Yeah. Does a great job at advertising itself, but
it must,
so you just can't fight that wind. Like you'll hurt yourself. So
because the mate of mine that's heavy into it, he's a concreter. You know what I mean? Like it's just really interesting that
we always joke about it. Every tradie's going to be retiring soon if that thing keeps going higher. We're going to have a labor crisis.
It's interesting, isn't it? Somehow they've tapped into the tradies.
I don't know. I can't explain it.
How have they done that?
I can't explain it.
Conspiracy.
But I think that thing, what you mentioned about the unlimited supply, that's
pretty scary.
I guess that's the big selling point for Bitcoin. That's what kind of sold me on it. Hey,
100%.
It's just knowing that they're not making any more.
Yep.
And
we've got that enough just with our holding Aussie dollars right now. We don't need that with our investments. So
yeah, big time. Sticking with sort of the theme of Trump and the US government. It's come out this week that Elon Musk has suggested that the US Treasury could potentially use the blockchain for sort of for more like efficiency and transparency of like, the US government spending.
Right.
Which is pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
I don't know like if that ever happens, but can you imagine if we could just see on the blockchain and imagine what blockchain they use? Like imagine if they decide to commit to the XRP ledger or even Solana.
No, it's going to be the Dogecoin chain.
Oh yeah,
probably if it's Elon. But whatever they choose is just going to go nuts.
It's going to go nuts.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
and these are the things like I think we try to like keep an eye on, like where are people going to like feel like there's demand now all of a sudden because the tides have changed big time with all this. They're looking at 6 months from now it's going to be regulated in the States. It's never would have thought that 12 months ago.
Yeah.
So because that's in the US at the moment, people still having to use basically VPNs just to buy it still, or is it? It's
it's like they can. Their exchanges are legal over there, so you can buy it freely. But from a security standpoint, like there's been a little bit of a tussle between the SEC and a lot of these crypto projects like XRP around them being like unregistered securities, like stocks that are not registered with the SEC. Which they can't really say for Bitcoin because Bitcoin is decentralized enough that they can't really make that claim. But XRP, for instance, they've said that, Ripple is basically the company releasing these securities, that being XRP, and that's like illegal.
Right.
But I think with this new administration, particularly like around Trump, they're just going to wipe a clean slate, it looks like, and be really sort of pro crypto, which is great for us, right? And we've seen there's going to be a task force that's dedicated to finding out what they can do with crypto and whether they want to build that Bitcoin stockpile, or even digital asset stockpile. So there's a lot of good things happening. There's a department called Doge, which is great. Yeah, I know. So I think it's all heading in the right direction from the US standpoint. Yeah. But obviously there's more to it than just that, right?
Yeah.
So.
It feels like, as far as those things, like it feels like there's so much good news, there's so much positive news that I feel like we should be pumping more than we are.
Yeah.
I reckon, like, it feels like there's
definitely the macros holding things back. So like the one thing, if you look at it historically, fundamentally speaking, is when the amount of money in the world, there's like ebbs and flows, liquidity. So when it increases, our markets generally tend to follow with like 30 to 90 day lag.
Yep.
So I think it could be just a regime shift, just Trump's policies, potentially early phases. Yeah. It's lagged. Like there just hasn't been that sort of stimulus coming in to support crypto or even the stock market, to be honest. Like we have seen it grow, but it's also had its sort of halts and faults as well, just the US equities markets. Yeah. But the general trend globally is things are looking better, but it's just not probably going as fast as what people would expect.
Right.
Compared to where we were like in November.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the interesting thing now, because I agree with you. Like we were just making some comments about this is crazy. It's never looked as clear.
Yeah.
It's always been muddy, right? So the water's never been clearer, but everyone's just exhausted to even like talk about crypto right now. It's crazy.
There's rumors that China's going to unban crypto.
Again?
Again?
Yeah.
Who knows what they're going to do there.
But
I'm sure it's just
surely that would be probably the best news we could receive. Like that would be so huge.
Aside from like the US Bitcoin reserve, where they buy Bitcoin every day. Yes, I think China sort of having a pro crypto stance is definitely sort of the next biggest catalyst that we could possibly have. Yeah. It's no longer Elon tweeting is enough to drive them these days.
Everyone's used to that.
Yeah, that's right.
We need the next big thing.
Lost their power.
Yeah. Unless he tweets about like some tiny small cap coin, then maybe not. But I was looking at some of the top movers this morning, which we usually cover, and there's just not much happening. Not a heap happening. Yeah. It seems like a lot of the market's in the red at the moment. Ondo, which is an RWA coin. Have you heard of it?
That's so weird. I was about to ask you about Ondo, because I only ankle tapped it, but I bought some, and it's again, like even the last few days when everything was dumping, Ondo held strong. Like
that's a good tell. I've found in the past, whenever everything else is looking terrible, whatever's top 10 leading week in, week out, that's what you want to be watching.
Yeah. So what's it about? Like I know nothing about it.
Yeah, I mean, Ondo is like a real world asset token. So they built like one of I think they have the second biggest fund of digital assets.
Okay.
Can you verify that?
Can't verify that. No, I can't.
Anyway,
they've dumb that down. Sorry. What does that mean?
Yeah. So they've built a fund essentially that contains a lot of digital assets. So companies can invest in this fund, right? And they've got ties with BlackRock. So BlackRock obviously being one of the biggest or the biggest asset manager in the world. So just having that sort of, not partnership, but just having that sort of collaboration with such a big financial firm like BlackRock is just great for it.
Yeah.
Obviously from a narrative standpoint. But I think the reason why it's had a little bit of an uptick in the last couple of days is it's just announced it's launching its own layer 1 blockchain.
Right.
So, and I can't really tell you too much more than that because I've only just seen the news, but I think the fact that they're doing that means they want to try and get more funds built on top of the network. And so I think it'll just be a bigger ecosystem like that they're trying to move towards.
Yeah. Their end goal is to, like we say, real world assets. It's kind of a fuzzy way of saying they want to take something that already exists. So like securities, bonds, stuff that everyone's familiar with in TradFi land and even just retail investors.
Yeah.
And then put that on the blockchain. So essentially, instead of you having to go buy some sort of ETF that gives you exposure to a corporate bond, you can just get it straight from a blockchain and just buy it off the shelf.
Right.
And also just access. So like the US, I know it's one thing that we've been speculating and for quite some time. They've got a lot of debt. They want to sell as much of their debt as they can. They do that through government bonds. So if you could digitize that and make it really easily accessible, you just make the US dollar even more spread throughout the world. People buying US debt.
And I think the big thing with BlackRock is their CEO has come out and basically said, I want every single financial instrument to be tokenized on the blockchain, which is huge, right? So it means like, as you said, it's so much more accessible. It's not just, limited to, 8 till 10 till 4 in a day. It's going to be 24-hour markets, which I think is how he sort of envisages it going.
Right.
But I think he also is launching his own stock market in Texas.
Jesus.
So I assume we'll see.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see sort of like if that plays out and if he starts moving towards more that tokenized.
A real tangible outcome for like the average person. Let's say you go, instead of holding money in a bank to earn interest, if you use, say, one of these products, you could earn your interest daily instead of at the end of every month.
Yeah.
So when you look at something like compounding, if you're compounding daily versus just monthly, it works out to be a bigger sum at the end of the year.
Right. Yeah.
Because the instant ledger settlement allows that to happen more frequently without as much hurdles.
And fractionalization as well, I think is a key one is, you can split up big financial assets like a house into tokenized fractions where I can buy, Kip, if you want to sort of sell your house, but you want to sell it, split it up. I can buy a little portion of your house because I might not necessarily be able to afford the entire house, but then I get a portion of the rent of the people who live there and things like that.
Or just the underlying asset increasing or decreasing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So it can do things like that, which is something we haven't really seen before.
No.
But it's anything could happen, right? It's such a huge space that I think it's going to play a huge narrative, particularly in 2025. The real world asset space, even if they don't make huge developments, I just think with the likes of the US government making sort of these moves and also financial institutions like BlackRock being involved, I think it's going to reflect well on
Do you think because of BlackRock and the amount that they buy, the amount of buy pressure they put on, do you think we're still going to see sort of crypto winter toward the end of this year? Like,
I'm going to expect it until proven wrong.
Yeah.
Because everyone keeps saying, well, what if this is the one that we never come down from?
Yes.
We were saying the same thing last time and got burnt a little bit. So,
I think
true.
I think Bitcoin definitely could stabilize it a little bit more, but altcoins, they'll still go down like 90% if you're not careful.
But I'd go back to what I was saying before. Like if something actually creates something that's got a product market fit and it's not going to result in people running away if the market dips. Like there's a reason they've got an incentive to stay and keep their money within a project. It's like investing in a company, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if an industry boomed and you've got a reason to keep your money there, I feel like maybe it won't. But look, I haven't seen anything. I'd be like I can't let go of this.
Well, I think the only thing that we've said has like pure product market fit is stablecoins.
Stablecoins,
right? And a lot of that comes down to them being stable, right?
Yes.
And being more accessible than say like a US dollar. So, you can get it in whatever country you need. And it's more sort of, it's less volatile than their own national currency. So I think we've talked about that before, but I agree. I think we're still sort of on the hunt for any other, legitimate crypto projects that, do have a volatile asset that has that product market fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, I'm not selling everything yet, but soon. I mean, that's why. For me, that's why it's good having Bitcoin in my self-managed super fund because I feel like I've got some personal, which I would probably try and move, before the end of this year. But then knowing that I've got some in my self-managed super fund that's just going to sit there. I'm not selling it no matter what because I don't have to make money on it this year.
That's the difference.
It's a really nice
big
hedge.
difference.
It just feels a lot better, a lot safer to go. If I do sell some of mine now where it's at, and then it triples, I'm not going to be gutted.
No.
Yeah.
And then the same if I sell it and it goes down, I'm not spewing because at least I took some profit here, and hopefully it's going to come back there. So yeah.
I think that's a key learning that everyone seems to experience once or twice in their crypto lifetime is like they always say, oh, but what if it goes up more? And then before you know it, they're in the red. So I think, as I said before, taking profits is never a bad idea wherever you are. So
yes,
yeah. Pav, final thoughts?
No, well, this was good.
Yeah.
Good fun.
Yeah, good chat.
Yeah, thanks,
you're
boys,
good at
yeah.
this. You should do this for a
Yeah,
living.
I want to come back and just I'll just keep asking questions
Talk
every couple of
crypto.
weeks.
Yeah.
That'd be all right with us.
No, I'll have to get you on again. See how
Yeah.
your portfolio is in a couple of months' time.
Okay,
Yeah.
hopefully good.
Absolutely.
Do you reckon we should have at least one more little pump before it's all over, don't you reckon?
Oh, yeah.
Seasonally speaking, like to the end of this year, but the next 3 months, who knows?
Yeah,
But
okay.
yeah, end of the year, data leans towards end of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
we're seeing like all the fundamentals line up from a regulatory standpoint and getting support
Put it
from
this
the
way,
US government. So I
yeah.
think that's
Trump's not standing up cryptocurrency as the
No.
pedestal of what they're going to be focusing on for it to just fall over.
yeah,
I feel.
exactly.
So,
I don't think
yeah.
Trump
Yeah.
would be satisfied with crypto doing poorly under
Yeah.
his sort of administration.
Yeah,
so
true.
Yeah.
and same with the economy at the
Yeah.
end of the day. So
Yeah.
I think he's going to do everything in his power.
He's looking for easy wins at the moment, though. You see, he's just pledged to bring back plastic straws.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I was trying to check if that was like some sort of meme account posting.
no,
It's
that's
real.
That's
I think everything
legitimate.
else he's
That's-
doing hasn't really
that's
panned
good.
out, like the tariffs and stuff. So
Yeah.
he's just desperate for the win.
Yeah.
And it's popular. I mean, people hate those cardboard straws.
Oh my god!
I will admit
they
I am
fall
one of
apart.
those. Yeah.
I mean, I know the turtles, but they
I know.
fall apart after
I know.
3 sips.
I just thought the irony is like you got a plastic cup but a paper straw.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
give me the
absurd.
paper
Right.
cup
And
and
have you
the
ever
plastic straw.
And if you've ever been in
Yeah.
the States, like the
Yeah.
amount of waste every time you get a meal, like everything's
really?
in styrofoam.
Oh, okay.
They put it inside a plastic bag.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it's just
Yeah.
like straws are the least of the problems.
Yeah, true.
They got so much going on over there, and
Yeah.
I think also with straws, like until China starts caring, then what's the point?
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Exactly. They're the
Yeah, I still love the turtles.
yeah. We love turtles here.
Yes,
not trying to-
make that the headline of this YouTube.
Yeah.
will ya?
Done.
We love turtles.
We love turtles.
Cool. We might leave it there.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
Thanks a lot for coming on, Kip.
Pleasure.
Kip.
Thanks for having me.
Catch
boys.
you next time. So make sure to check Kip out if you're in Brizzy.
Yeah. 97.3 on the dial, and Kip Wightman on Instagram and YouTube. Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys.